yesterday we practiced graphing on the coordinate plane. Today we're going to talk about distance, okay? What did we say last week about distance when we talked about absolute value? There was a rule in math that distance was always what? You remember? Doesn't matter if we're walking forwards or backwards. Remember we watched the video clip? It's still going, so distance is always positive. Very good. So, one thing I want you to write over here to the side. Distance is always positive. Distance is always positive. Remember we watched the video clip of Ferris Bueller and they can't back the miles off the car, okay? So distance is always going in a positive direction, no matter if you're going forwards or backwards. Okay, so we're going to talk about distance, the length of a line connecting 2 points. Okay, that's easy. We're just looking at 2 points, we're finding a line that connects them, and we're finding the distance. For our purposes this year, our distance that we're finding, our line, will always be on the same vertical or horizontal axis, okay? They'll always be in a straight line. We won't deal with diagonal lines, and you won't do that until you get into higher grades, okay? So let's look at this. We're going to plot some points together, and I apologize. I know the graph is not the greatest. It copied a little smudged, okay? So we're going to look at A, all right? And we have positive 1, positive 5. So positive 1, am I going to move to the right or left?
Right.
To the right. So we go over 1. And positive 5, do I go up or down?
Up.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? And it's A. Should be right there. Sure. Positive goes up. Okay? So now let's look at C. We've got positive 1. So we go to the right. And the negative 3, do we go up or down? Down. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. And that is C. So the line we're looking at counting is all the way through here. So this is very technical. We're going to go back to kindergarten for a minute when you guys were learning how to add and subtract on a number line. And we're going to do froggy hops, or first grade, yeah. So be very careful because you don't want to count the actual lines. You want to count when you go from one to the next. So that would count as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the distance between point A and point C is 8 units. So again, we're just counting from one line to the next. That counts as 1 unit, okay? All right, let's look at graphing the next one. 3.5. What does 0.5 mean with our decimal equivalents? Remember? What's that equivalent to? 0.5 is 1/2. Okay? So this is 3.5. It's going to be halfway in between 3 and 4. So negative 2, do I go right or left? Left. Very good. Negative 1, negative 2, and the positive 3.5, up or down? So 1, 2, 3 and a half. 3.5. Just go halfway in between the lines. So then the next line we have is positive 1, 3.5. So that's 1, 2, 3 and a half, and that would go right there. Yeah, that's in that bad little section. It's okay, just try the best you can. On your paper, you should be able to see where it is. Okay. All right. So now let's look at this. I'm at negative 2, and I've got to jump to negative 1, and then 0. So how many hops have I made so far?
2.
And then I've got to hop to 1. So what's the total distance? 3. Now, what's great is even if you can't see it, I'm going to show you how you can find the distance without even graphing. Most of the time, I want you to graph it, okay? But I am going to show you how you can find it without even graphing it. We have two rules here. If my signs are the same, I'm going to subtract. Okay, same, subtract. If my signs are different, I'm going to abbreviate that different, I'm going to do what? Add. Very good. So signs are the same, we subtract. Signs are different, we add. So let's go back up here and look at these. 1, 5, 1, negative 3. Which ones are the ones that match? Well, think about the ones that match. Which match? 1 and 1. So guess what? I don't have to use those. 1 and 1 are just telling me it's on the same axis or same line at positive 1. So the two numbers I'm looking at are 5 and negative 3. Are my signs the same or different?
Different.
Different. So what am I going to do?
Add.
What's 5 plus 3?
8.
There you go. Okay? So, two ways to look at this. The regular, just 6th grade standard wants you just counting the hops, okay? But I think you guys can handle knowing that if our signs are different, why do you think we're adding them? What are we crossing if my signs are different? What's in the middle of my number line?
0.
0. So I'm adding them because it took me 5 jumps to get from 5 to 0, and it took me 3 jumps to get from 0 to negative 3. So I'm going to add them. Look at the next ones. Okay, we've got negative 2, 3.5, positive 1, 3.5. What can we ignore? The 3.5, because that just tells us they're on the same line. So I'm looking at negative 2 and positive 1. Are my signs the same or different? So I'm going to add, get 3 units. Okay? So, let's go ahead, let's do this one without graphing it, and then we'll graph it and show that we get the same thing. So, which two numbers can I ignore there?
The 1 and 1.
The negative 1 and negative 1. So I'm looking at negative 2 and negative 3. Signs same or different?
Different.
They're the same. They're both negative, so we're going to
Subtract.
So what would our distance be?
1.
1.
How do you subtract 2?
Well, 3 from 2.
Also, you can change it around?
Yeah, you just want to know, because remember, distance is always positive. I can step on one square and take 2 steps forward, and I can take 2 steps backwards. It's going to be the same thing. So let's graph it and make sure. Let's double check ourselves. So we've got negative 2, negative 1. And then we have negative 3, negative 1. So this line right here, what's the distance from one square to the next? 1.
It makes a smiley face.
It does. So, do you see how you're going to get the same thing, whether you count them or you look and add or subtract? Okay? Any questions so far? All right, I know this is homework at the bottom, but we're actually going to do this part together. So, let's look at the bottom. This is where it's going to come in handy to actually count them instead of just looking at our coordinates, because we don't have our coordinates, do we? Okay, it's just giving us the points, but it's not it hasn't told us what our coordinates are. All right, so we want to know how far it is from the skate park to the gym. Skate park to the gym. Now, be super careful, because there is a line there that's actually not drawn.
4.
Okay, hang on. There's a line there that's not drawn. And it's this line right here at negative 1. It's not drawn because the numbers are there, but you've got to count negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. So you are right. 4 units. Okay, what about school to home?
3.
Because we've got, that would be 1, 2, 3 units. All right, now it wants to know home to baseball field. So we already know that there's 3 from home to school. So let's keep going here. Hold on. So there's 3 there, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Very good. Okay. What about library to post office? You guys are quick.
Yes.
So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So again, this would be a great example of needing to count them because it doesn't have your coordinates listed.
Is that a 5 or a 3?
Right here, that's a 3.
Are you on 11?
Right here, library to post office was 4. Okay, so at the bottom, all right, let's look at these, and we've got to graph these. So we've got positive 2. Should I go left or right?
Left.
Right. Positive 2 and then positive 5, up or down? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then we have positive 2, negative 1. So what's the distance of this line?
Where is the whole line?
We have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you wanted to look at this, okay, we can ignore our 2's. We've got positive 5 and negative 1. Our signs are different, so we can add. 5 plus 1 gives us 6. All right, I'm going to slow down just a second, let everybody kind of catch up. Any questions so far?
No.
Good. All right, look at the next one. We've got negative 2 and negative 1. And then we have negative 5, negative 1. So what's our distance on that line?
3.
3. Awesome. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's try to do the next one without even graphing it. Which numbers there can I ignore? The 2.5. So I'm looking at 6 and 4. Are my signs the same or different?
Is that an 8 or a 4?
Same. That's a 3.
2.
So right here, our distance would be what?
2.
2. Excellent. And we didn't even have to graph that one. All right. Hold on. Look at number 8. Negative 2, 0. Negative 2, 0. What is your distance?
0.
Awesome. If they are the same, guys, there's no distance between any of them.
So if we graph that one, we don't have to
No, if you were to graph it, it would just be negative 2, 0, negative 2, 0. There's no distance. Yeah. Okay, any questions so far? All right, on the back, we're going to go back and do some practice of what we did yesterday. So at the top, you are writing the ordered pair. And remember, this is like giving directions. Where are we always going to start?
the middle.
In the middle, we call the middle the what?
Origin.
Origin, and what's its point labeled?
0.
0,
0.0.
0, 0, okay? So if we're giving directions from 0, 0 to get to M, where do we go first?
Left.
We got to go left, which is negative 3, and then we go up. So we would write that as negative 3, comma 1. And then at the bottom, you're just graphing, and I tried to give you a bigger graph today. So for S, we've got positive 4, negative 1. Positive 4, do I go left or right? Right? And negative 1, up or down? So this will be our first point, and we're going to label that S. Okay? I'll give you another. All right, any questions so far, guys? Excellent.